Ricardian model, right? So I hope today I can finish the Ricardian model. Before that, if you have any query from the Ricardian model, you can ask. Do you have any query? If you have any problem with the Ricardian model, you can ask. Okay. So we are discussing about the trade in Ricardian model, and we have discussed about the, I'm just going through the slides, just check it once. Just the notations, then the PPF, the slopes, the comparison of the PPF, slope of the PPF of the home country and the foreign country. Then we derive the relative supply curve, that is our relative supply curve, and the corresponding relative demand curve and equilibrium. And then after the gains from trade, this is something new for us. And we define the gains from trade in terms of indirect production, direct production, which one is better. And the conclusion is indirect production is better, so we should go for trade. And the trade is helping us to improve our welfare, which is called gains from trade. These are the PPF of the home country and the foreign country. This is the world PPF. The derivation of the world PPF, it is like this. Up to this point, we have discussed. So as I said in my last class that I am going to discuss about the in-commodity extension of the Ricardian model, and the logical explanation is there in the textbook, but the way I am going to discuss it, it is not in the textbook. So if you want, you can take the note in your class copy, in your copy. Okay. So this is the in-commodity extension of the Ricardian model. When we start our Ricardian model, we assume there are two countries, home country and foreign country, and there are two commodities, cheese and wine. And there is one factor of production, that is labor. Okay, so these are the three main assumptions. So we are going to relax one assumption, the assumption of two commodity. Okay, the cheese and wine. So we are going to relax that assumption. Other two assumptions are there as before. So now here for simplicity, we are assuming not the home country and foreign, the country A and country B. Okay, the factor of production is labor as before, and the number of commodity is N now. Okay, so this is our number of commodities. Look, this is our number of commodities. So N number of commodities both countries can produce. Okay, N number of, initially it was 2 and now it is N number of commodities, and the name of the commodities are X1, X2 up to Xn. Okay, now AI is the unit labor requirement in the ith sector of country A. AI is the unit labor requirement, that is what we called as ALC, ALW initially. This is for simplicity, here we are writing as just simple AI. Okay, that AL is missing because we know AL is the only factor of production. So AI is the unit labor requirement of the ith sector of country A. Similarly, BJ is the unit labor requirement of the jth sector of country B. So similarly, you can find out BI also. This is the unit labor requirement of ith sector of country B. That you can also use. But okay, AI and BJ, these are the unit labor requirement. A for country A, small b for country B. Then say country A has comparative advantage over ith commodity. Okay, this is just our assumption that country A has comparative advantage of ith commodity and country B has comparative advantage in jth commodity. Okay. Now, if it is as country A has comparative advantage in ith commodity, so that means country A needs lesser number of labor to produce 1 unit of ith commodity. Or I can say, okay, I'm repeating, country A needs relatively lesser number of labor to produce ith commodity as compared to country B. Is that point okay? Country A, we just assume that country A has comparative advantage in ith commodity. So what does it mean? It means that country A needs relatively lesser amount of labor to produce ith commodity as compared to country B. Is that sentence clear to you? Country A, okay, I'm repeating it once more. Country A needs relatively lesser number of labor to produce ith commodity as compared to country B. That is how you can explain comparative advantage. And this is what written in this inequality. AI by AJ is less than BI by BJ. Say there are two commodities, na, I and J. Okay. So as compared to J, or as compared to the country B, country A needs relatively lesser amount of labor to produce ith commodity, and just opposite for country B. Now, if I rearrange them, then it will be AI by BI less than AJ by BJ. Okay. So this is our, actually I need this inequality to explain the Ricardian model here. Okay. That is why we are doing this rearrangement and all. So first slide is clear to you or not? Then I will go to the next one. Just give me 1 minute. Yes, I'm back.
Ma'am,
Yes.
ma'am, 19s331 is present.
Okay, I will do it after some time. Just a
Okay,
minute.
ma'am.
So this is the thing. Um, Country A has comparative advantage in ith commodity and country B has comparative advantage in jth commodity. So we have just rearranged them and we are writing it as AI by BI less than AJ by BJ. Okay. So this is what we have done. Now, in the next slide, okay, before that, tell me if you have any query from this slide. That was my question. Do you have any problem from this slide? No problem. Do you have any problem from this slide?
No, ma'am.
So I'm going to the next one. So if I assume that country A, like this, say there are four commodities. So AI by BI is less than AJ by BJ and there are four commodities and we are arranging, okay, before that. So there are a number of commodities and we are arranging them according to the comparative advantage. So we can write them like this: A1 by B1 is less than A2 by B2 up to AN by BN. So we have just arranged them according to the comparative advantage in favor of country A. Okay, so this is the arrangement. Now look, we know at the equilibrium price is equal to LSE, right? We know price is equal to long run average cost. Now price of commodity I in country A, this is written as PIA. Okay, price of commodity I in country A, it is written as PIA. Fine, that is equal to LSE. Now, what is LSE? The number of LSE means what? To produce 1 unit of the commodity, how much money you have to spend, right? LSA means to produce 1 unit of the commodity, long run average cost, right? So to produce 1 unit of the commodity, what is the money you need? Hmm. So here, first of all, to produce 1 unit of the commodity, you need AI unit of labor, right? By definition, AI is the unit labor requirement. There is a number of labor you need to produce 1 unit of I. And per unit of labor, you have to pay WA because this is the wage rate in country A. Hmm. So, what is the total expenditure to produce 1 unit? WA into AI. So, this is your LSE. Is right hand side clear to all? WA into AI. This is my LSE. This part is okay. LSE. Is there any problem with this right hand side, that how I am getting LSE as WA into AI? Is it clear to you?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Similarly, for PIB is equal to WB into BI. Now, what is the relative wage? We are defining relative wage W is equal to WBI WA. Okay, this is what we need actually. For our sake, we just explain it. We just consider it. Relative wage is equal to small w. Now, unit production cost ratio. Unit production cost ratio. Now, unit production cost ratio means the LSE actually. The ratio of the LSE of different countries. So, for the same commodity, remember this is for the same commodity. So, it is WB into BI divided by WA into AI. WB into BI is the LSE of ith commodity in country B, and WA into AI is the LSE of ith commodity in country A. So unit production cost ratio is the ratio of these two. So as we define WB by WA as small w, so we are replacing it like this, W into BI by A. So what is that? It is the unit production cost ratio. W into BI by AI, this is our unit production cost ratio. Now look at this. Say there are four commodities. Okay, so N is equal to 4. You can consider N is equal to 5, 10,000, whatever. But just to make it simple, we just assume N is equal to 4. And if N is equal to 4, then we have already arranged it like this. A1 by B1 is less than A2 by B2. So we just write it for 4 number of commodities. So A1 by B1 less than A2 by B2 less than A3 by B3 less than A4 by B4. So if you just make it inverse, the sign will also change. B1 by A1 greater than B2 by A2 greater than B3 by A3 greater than B4 by A4. Why we are doing this? That B1 A1 because it is here. Look, BI by AI, we have it as unit production cost ratio. So we just want to convert our the situation in terms of in my favor. So that is how we are doing. Now look, this is the diagram you have to understand. On the horizontal axis, we are measuring W. W means relative wage. Remember, this is not the absolute wage. It is the relative wage. That is WB by WA. Okay. On the horizontal axis, we are measuring WB by WA. And on the vertical axis, we are measuring W into that W. That W into BI by AI. That means this one. Unit production cost ratio. We are measuring unit production cost ratio on the vertical axis, that is W into BI by AI. Okay, so this is what we are measuring. Now look, there are there are four lines, one, two, three, four. That one, the line 1 is representing commodity 1. Similarly, 2 for commodity 2, the 3 for commodity 3, and this 4 for commodity 4. How I am getting this? Look, B1 by A1 is highest among all those four, right? So B1 by A1 is the highest among these four commodities. So if I multiply W into B1 by A1, that will be the steepest one, right? If I change, look, B and A, these are constant because these are the unit labor requirement. We assume those as constant. So here only if W is changing, then only W into Bi by Ai will change. Okay. If small w will change, then only W into Bi by Ay will change. And the small w is measured on the horizontal axis. So if W is changing, W into Bi by Ai will also change by the same proportion, right? So that is why these lines are straight line. The relation between W into Bi by Ai into and the W, the relationship between W into Bi by Ai in and W, that this relation is shown by the straight line. Okay, this relationship is shown by the straight line because Bi and Ai, these are constant. Now, as we assume B1 by A1 is highest, so W into B1 by A1, this is also highest and this is the steepest one. Then comes 2, then comes 3 and ultimately 4. So that is why the 4, this red line which is representing commodity 4 is most flat actually, and this green one, the shabby green type of thing, so this line representing commodity 1 is the steepest one. Okay, so this is how we are getting four lines representing four commodities. If we assume 5 or 6 commodities, another 2 lines will be added like this. Okay, now how can you find out the pattern of trade? Because we are dealing with the Ricardo. Okay, so Ricardo is concerned about the pattern of trade. So after this, we are going to discuss about the pattern of trade. Up to this point, if you have any problem, you can ask. Do you have any problem up to this point? Any more clarification? If you want to clarify yourself more, just ask me, I will try. Any problem?
No, ma'am.
Today you are representing the class. As Ishan is absent today, I think. Anyway, uh,
Actually, I joined late, so I have to rewatch the
oh,
first
you are
part.
here, but I
Yes,
think Devoshree is representing the class, so I was thinking
No,
she
ma'am.
is
I'm
not there.
Vidisha.
Oh, Bidisha, okay, fine. Actually, I cannot see the name now, so I'm just trying to remember the face. Um, anyway, now look here. We just assume a line which is parallel to the horizontal axis. The value is 1. What is the significance of 1? 1 means W into Bi by Ai is equal to 1. So what is W into Bi by Ai? We will come back there. Yeah. W into Bi by Ai is the unit production cost ratio, and that is equal to 1. That means WB into Bi is equal to WA into Ai. That means LAC of country B is equal to LAC of country A. So long run average costs are same. That means prices are same because LAC is equal to price at the equilibrium. So prices are same. Okay. the line 1 is representing equal price for both the countries, country A and country B. So this is a line parallel to the horizontal axis. We need this line. Now look, these lines are intersecting this shabby green and these red lines at two different points. So the first point representing the relative wage W1 and the second point is representing relative wage W2. Now I am just making a comment and then I will explain that comment. So what is the comment? Comment is relative wage should be in between W1 and W2. Before trade, the relative wage should be, if there is at all any trade, if there is trade, then relative wage should be between W1 and W2. Now I am going to explain this comment. Say relative wage is W naught. Okay. Say relative wage is W naught. Now I am just making a vertical line from W naught. Okay. This is a line from W naught. Now look, this line, this black line is intersecting 1 and 2 above this horizontal line and intersecting this green and the red line below this horizontal line, right? So above this line means the values are greater than 1 and below this line means that W into BI by AI is less than 1, right? Now I'm taking just one commodity, then you can understand. Say for commodity 1, for W naught, we are concentrating on commodity 1. So for commodity 1, W into BI by AI is greater than 1. That we can understand, it is here. So it is greater than 1. 1 is here. So it is greater than 1. So what is the meaning of greater than 1? That means WB into B1, rather 1. This is 1. Na? So WB into B1 is greater than WB into A1. Okay, let me go back there. Yes. If this is greater than 1, if this one is greater than 1, look at this. If this one is greater than 1, that means WB into BI is greater than WA into AI, or specifically WB into B1 is greater than WA into A1. Now WB into B1 is nothing but the LSE and WA into A1 again nothing but the LSE of country A. So as LSE of country B is greater than that of country A, then price of commodity 1, try to understand it. Price of commodity 1 in country B is greater than price of commodity 1 in country A. Okay. Price of commodity 1 in country B is greater than price of commodity 1 in country A. Okay. So commodity 1 is cheaper in country A as compared to country B. Right? So in that case, what will be produced by country A? We know country A should produce commodity 1 and he will export it to commodity to country B. Right? LAC is lower, na? LAC is lower. If you try to understand in terms of cost, then also you can do it. LAC in country A is less than LAC in country B. If you can write it in your copy, in your home, so you can understand. This is LAC, na? So LAC of commodity 1 in country A is less than LAC in country B. So as average cost is lower, you can sell the commodity at the lower price. So you have some opportunity cost in favor of commodity 1. So you should produce commodity 1 and when trade will happen, you will export it to country B where the price is relatively high. Okay. So that means what is the conclusion? If W naught is the relative wage, then country A should produce 1. Do you get my point? Try to understand it. Huh? Just give me 1 minute. Try to understand it. I'm coming back. Okay, I'm back. Unfortunately, I hope I will continue for the rest of my class smoothly. Okay, so now tell me your problem. I discussed a lot about this diagram, so tell me your problem from this diagram. Do you have any problem? Obviously, you should have some problem. Where is your problem? Just ask me. Make yourself clear, please. As I'm repeating, as it is not in your textbook, as the way I am explaining, you have to make yourself clear in the class.
Ma'am, can you repeat the last part?
Only the last part. Okay.
Yes.
I'm saying that say W naught is the wage rate. Okay, W naught is the relative wage in the international market. Now, given this W naught, I'm trying to find out the pattern of trade according to the Ricardo. Now, given the if I just increase this line from W naught, if I draw the vertical line from W naught, it will intersect the line 1 above this parallel line. Okay, this parallel line is showing relative weight, or rather W into BI by AI is equal to 1. Okay, so this vertical line is intersecting the line of commodity 1 above this point. So what does it mean? If I can explain the meaning of that, then we can find out pattern of trade easily. So for that part, we need this one. Look, this is what we are measuring on the vertical axis. We are measuring W into BI by AI, or LSE of country B divided by LSE of country A. This is what we are measuring. And in the diagram, this value is greater than 1. So if this is greater than 1, that means WB into BI is greater than WA into AI, or rather WB into B1 is greater than WA into A1. Up to this point, is it okay? WB into B1 is greater than WA into A1. Is this point okay?
Yes, ma'am. Yes,
Okay. WB into B1 is greater than WA into A1. That means LSE for commodity 1 in country B is greater than LSE of commodity 1 in country A. So you can produce, what does it mean? You can produce commodity 1 in country A at relatively cheaper cost. LSE is lower, that means you can produce 1 unit of commodity 1 in country A at a cheaper cost, right? As compared to country B. And as you are producing at the lower cost, so you can sell it at the lower price, right? And if it is, then you should produce commodity. That means country A should produce commodity 1. Commodity 1 should not be produced by country B because his cost of production is higher. So he should not produce it. Because the Ricardian model is based on the cost. No? The cost is opportunity cost. So where the cost is lowest, the country has opportunity cost. The country has comparative advantage over the commodity, and he should produce it. So here, country A has comparative advantage over commodity 1, and he should produce it. Okay. So after trade, country A should produce commodity 1. Is this okay?
yes, ma'am.
And with the same reason, country A should produce commodity 2 as well. Okay, because for these two, the values are greater than 1. This unit labor cost ratio, this is greater than 1 for 1 and 2, given this W naught. And for commodity 3 and 4, just opposite. As it is less than 1, so country B has comparative advantage for commodity 3 and 4. So after trade, country A should produce 1 and 2, and country B should produce 3 and 4. And they will trade each other. Okay, they will exchange the commodities and the trade will happen. So the trade pattern is okay or not? I will explain W1 and W2, not to worry. But just tell me the story behind W0 is okay or not. Take your time, think, and then tell me. Any problem? Okay. Now I have explained everything with respect to W0. If the relative wage is W1, then what will happen? Look, for W1, look at the situation. Once W0 is clear, W0 should be clear. For W1, if I make a horizon or vertical line from W1, it is intersecting all lines, that is 2, 3, 4, below this ratio 1, right? And only for commodity 1, the ratio is equal to 1. It is LAC is equal for both the countries. But for 2, 3 and 4, the ratio is less than 1. That means the LAC is less in country B as compared to country A for 2, 3, 4. And as LAC is less, that means the cost of production is less. Country B should produce 2, 3, 4. And one can be produced by both the countries. Still, trade is possible because country A can produce one. This is incomplete specialization, but still, the trade may possible. But if W is less than W1, say here, W is less than W1. Then for all the commodities, 1, 2, 3, 4, for all the commodities, country B's average cost is less than that of country A. Okay. So in terms of cost, country B has comparative advantage over all the commodities. And according to the Ricardo, country B should produce all and country A will produce nothing. So there will be no trade. Okay. Similarly, if wage is greater than W2, like here, then for all the commodities, if I just draw the line like this, for all the commodities, the unit cost ratio that will be greater than 1. And if it is greater than 1, that means for all the commodity, for 1, 2, for 3, for 4 commodities, long run average cost is lesser for commodity A than for country A than country B. So country A has comparative advantage over all the commodities and country B has comparative disadvantage for all the commodities. So country A will produce all and country B will produce nothing. So there will be no trade, right? And this is why I said that to have the trade, relative wage should be within W1 and W2. So this is the relative wage range. It should not be less than W1. It should not be greater than W2. Now think of it and tell me your problem. Any problem from this? Think of it. You may have some problem. Just feel free and ask.
Ma'am, when wage rate is W1, then for country A will produce both
Hmm, hmm, hmm.
when I'm
Country A
understanding.
can produce only one. Okay. Because for commodity one, LAC is same for both the countries. So both country can produce. Both countries can produce commodity one. And look, this is incomplete specialization, huh? Because country B has to produce 2, 3, 4. So all three commodities should be produced by country B. So there will be incomplete specialization in that sense. Complete specialization means you have to produce only one. But here you are producing four. So that complete specialization is no more. But the only option for country A is commodity one.
Okay, ma'am.
And here, if it is W2, then only option for country B is 4. For all other commodities, country A has comparative advantage and he is going to produce 1, 2, 3. 4 can be produced by, look, 4 can be produced by country A as well, but it can be produced by country B. Because the average cost is same, na? It can be produced by both. But still there is an option for country B to produce 4. So in that case, there is a possibility of trade. Okay. But if it is greater, then all the commodities are produced by country A. No commodities will be produced by country B, and definitely there will be no trade. This is only problem of in commodity extension. It is a limitation of the Ricardian model in case of in commodity extension. First of all, that complete specialization portion is not there. And the next one is there is a certain wage, relative wage range. Anything else? Yes. Your query? Okay. So this is explained here actually. What I have said, this is explained here. And then, do you need this diagram again? Okay, take your time. Okay, as no questions are coming, so I just assume everything is okay for you. So I'm going to the next one, that is the wage. How you are going to define, how you are going to get the wage from the Ricardian model. Huh? So that is partially we discussed in case of the in commodity extension, but not in details. So here we are going to discuss it. Look, as labor can freely move between the industries, money wage is same within the country, right? This is the assumption of the Ricardo, that labor can produce cheese, labor can produce wine, and they're equally productive for both the commodity. They can go there, okay? And as it is, if wage is a little bit higher in one industry, then labor will move there from another industry, and in that industry the supply of labor is rising and the price of labor, that is wage, is falling. And this is how ultimately wage in both sectors, in both production units within the country, will be same. Do you get the point? Say wage in the home country, okay. Mm. Say it is like this, WC, say in the home country. Now we are coming back to the home and the foreign situation. Huh? Say WC is, this is money wage, is greater than WW. Okay? So it is like this. As labor can freely move from here to there, then labor will leave this. What will be done if this will happen? Then labor will move from the wine industry and is going to the cheese industry, right? So in the cheese industry, the supply of labor is rising. And as supply is rising, you know from the demand supply interaction that if supply is rising, price will fall. So WC is falling. So ultimately through this movement of labor, we will get WC is equal to WW. You get the point? Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Ma'am, can you repeat again, ma'am?
Yes, I'm saying that say wage in cheese industry is greater than wage in the wine industry in home country. Okay, as labor can freely move between the industries. So in that situation, laborers are moving, or rather labor are leaving wine industry and is trying to enter in the cheese industry, as wage is higher in the cheese industry, right? So as labor is coming in the cheese industry, the supply of labor is rising in this industry, and as supply is rising, price should fall, and the price means that WC, so WC is falling. Okay, and opposite is happening in the wine industry. In the wine industry, the supply of labor is falling, so wage is rising. So both things are happening simultaneously. WC is falling and WW is rising, and ultimately we will get this equality between the wage. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is, within industry the wage rate is same for, sorry, within the country the wage rate is same for both the industries. That is my conclusion. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Now look, so WC can be replaced by PC into ALC, because this is the equilibrium condition. We know money wage is equal to VMPL na? So actually price is equal to VMPL, right? Price is equal to VMPL. So VMPL is what? VMPL is 1 by ALC. So if we just rearrange this side to that side, you will get W, that is money wage, is equal to PC into ALC. Because W into 1 by ALC, that is W into MPL, is equal to PC. So if you take ALC from left hand side to right hand side, then you will get money wage is equal to PC into ALC. And similarly is equal to PW by ALW. Okay, so this is the, remember this W is the money wage in home country. Is it okay? This bullet is okay or not?
Ma'am, is it PC by ALC or PC into ALC?
No, PC into LC, because the equilibrium condition is VMPL is equal to W.
Okay, ma'am.
Or actually, now think in this way, that the average cost should equal to the price, right? And the average cost means the wage rate into the number of labor required to produce one unit, and that equal to price. So we are getting this thing. Is it okay? So price into ALC is equal to W. Similarly, for the wine industry also, PW by into ALW is equal to W. Is it okay?
Yes, ma'am, understood.
Okay. Now the real wage. Real wage is W by PC, and that equal to ALC, and W by PW, that is the real wage, is equal to LW. Remember, this PC and PW, these are in the bold. That means they are international price. So now come back here. At the equilibrium, price is equal to marginal cost. That is also true. So PC is equal to MCC and PW is equal to MCW. Hmm. So PC by PW is equal to MCC by MCW, right? And PC by PW is what? PC by PW is equal to LC by LW. From these two equality, PC by PW, PC is what? W by LC, and PW is W by ALW. So PC by PW will be ALW by ALC. Okay. So what is the conclusion? The conclusion is MCC, that means this, by MCW, this one, is equal to ALW by ALC. I am replacing PC by PW by ALW by ALC. Up to this point, is it okay? The wage is not coming yet. It will come.
Yes, ma'am, clear.
Mm. Now look. After trade, home is producing only cheese. So for home, W is equal to PC by ALC, that PC is bold. That means this is the international price for cheese. Similarly, after trade, foreign is producing only W. So W star is equal to PW into ALW. So the real wage in terms of exportable good is unchanged. So what is the real wage? Real wage means W by PC, W star by PW, and this is ALC and ALW. These are constant, right? So as these are constant, these are actually the parameter in the model. So we can say the real wage in terms of the exportable good is unchanged. Obviously, exportable good for the home country, the real wage is W by PC, and this is equal to ALC. Home is producing only C, and he is going to export it. So the real wage in terms of exportable good is unchanged, as ALC is constant, so W by PC is also constant. Similarly, W star by PW is also constant for the foreign. Look, it is not PW star. Okay. Now, W by W star, that will be PC into ALC by PW into ALW. So this is how you are getting the absolute wage and the relative wage in the international market. Okay, this is the absolute wage, and PC is internationally determined, ALC is given to you, so you can find out W. Similarly, PW is determined internationally and ALW is given to you, you can find out W star. Once you have W and W star, just put those values, you will get the real wage. So this is how we can get the wage in Ricardian model. Okay.
Ma'am, can you explain the last ratio of W is to W star?
W is equal to W star ना एकदम तो बोली नहीं.
Ma'am, W ratio of W and W star. W
Put
is to
just
W.
put those values. Put those values. W by W star is equal to PC into LC divided by PW by ALW. Now PC by PW, this is nothing but the international terms of trade, right? PC by PW is the international terms of trade. Price of exportable by price of importable for the home country. And ALC and ALW, these are the parameters given already. So you can easily find out the real wage.
Okay, ma'am, got it.
This is how you can, this is actually I can say it's a branch. It's a allied part of the Ricardo. Ricardo is not actually concerned about the wage. He is only concerned about the pattern of trade. But after getting this pattern of trade, we are interested to get the wage. And this is how you can find out the wage. Okay. So as I have finished the Ricardo and I have some time left, so I thought I will discuss the offer curve. That is unit 2. Before studying the offer curve, just tell me if you have any query from unit 1. I will take the revision class after finishing the syllabus, definitely. And there you can ask your queries. But before that, as it is the new unit I'm going to start, it's better to make yourself clear about the previous unit. So if you have any query anywhere, you may think that it is a silly question, but don't worry. Just ask. Nothing is silly. When you are understanding something, nothing is silly. Okay, so no question. Offer curve. This is another curve which we never discussed before. This is something new based on our known concept. The curve is new, but the concept is known to us. So, what is the offer curve? It is the combination of export and import of a nation with change in terms of trade. You know what is terms of trade? I discussed about the terms of trade. Terms of trade is the value of exportable by the price of exportable by price of importable, right? This is the terms of trade. Now, do you get the terms of trade? I discussed it in the last class also. Terms of trade is the price of exportable by price of importable. So when this ratio will change, the amount of export and import will definitely change, right? So if you keep changing your terms of trade, the export and import will change automatically. And if you join all those export import values, the curve we will get is called the offer curve. So it is the combination of export and import when you are changing your terms of trade. And one more thing is there, along the offer curve, there is a balanced rate. Okay, there is balanced rate. That means value of export is equal to value of import. Now the star, here the star means the international market. Okay, so px star into x, that is the amount of export, is equal to py star into m, that is amount of import. So value of exportable is equal to value of importable. So there is a balanced rate in the nation. Along, remember this thing, along the offer curve there is balanced rate. There is value of exportable is equal to value of importable. Do you get the point? So this is the offer curve. What, how it is, so that I will explain. What is the shape of the offer curve? Then I will explain. But this is just the idea about the offer curve. Okay, let me go to the diagram. It may be interesting then. Look, this red one is the offer curve. On the horizontal axis, we are measuring the export, and on the vertical axis, we are measuring import. Okay. Now, the offer curve will start from the origin. Always, it will start from the origin. That means when export is 0, import is also the 0. That means it is the autarky. The 0 point means autarky. No export, no import. And then after, if your terms of trade is rising, right? TOT1, TOT2. So this is that these are the terms of trade. If these are rising, that means this line is becoming steeper and steeper and steeper like this. So terms of trade means again the value of exportable. So if value of exportable is rising, you will export more. And as value, as terms of trade is a ratio, so value of exportable rises means relatively value of importable is also rising, also falling, sorry. Value of importable is falling, so import is becoming cheaper, so you are going to import more. Hmm. So if terms of trade is rising, your export is rising, your import is rising. This is broadly, okay, I'm telling it broadly, I'm not going to the details. But is it okay? Terms of trade means the price of exportable by price of importable. So if this ratio is rising, that means price of exportable is rising. So you are encouraged to export more. On the contrary, if the ratio is rising, that means relatively your import is becoming cheaper. So you will import more as well. So export and import both will rise if terms of trade is rising, and if both will rise, this line will be positively sloped like this red line. Okay, but it has a curvature. It's like this, just inverse of your indifference curve, look, sort of. So this diagram is okay or not?
Ma'am, is there any upper bound to this curve?
There is. There is. No, actually there is no such you can draw like this. Ultimately, you can draw maximum terms of trade like this. So then after it's very close to the vertical axis. So your offer curve will go up to this point. To get the offer curve, you must have one terms of trade. You cannot draw terms of trade here, right? So your offer curve will not come in this area. Your offer curve cannot go there as well. It will be within this axis. So this is the range.
Okay, ma'am.
So this point, look, this particular point for TOT1, there is balanced rate. For this point on TOT2, there is balanced rate. That is value of exportable is equal to value of importable. Okay, in general there is exception, I'm telling again and again, there is exception, but in general when terms of trade is rising, the country is interested to export and import more, and that is why offer curve is upward rising. Okay, now as I said, it is in general, so there is some exception. The exception is here. Offer curve may be backward bending. Backward bending means what? Your terms of trade is rising, but your export is falling. Import is rising, but your export is falling. If you draw the line like this, look. Here in this range, if you draw the terms of trade, export and import both are rising. But here, if you draw the lines here, import is rising, but export is falling. That is also possible. That is also possible. Upward curve may be backward bending. Okay. Now I'm going to explain why it is so. But it is possible. Okay. Generally, we are drawing it like upward rising, but sometimes it is just like the labor supply curve. Can you remember the labor supply curve? Because of the problem of the substitution effect and income effect, labor supply curve may be backward bending. So here also, offer curve may be backward bending. Hmm. Why? The question is why? We are very happy with the upward rising. Everything was very easy to us. But the problem is coming when it is bending backward. The question is why it is like this. So here is my answer. Yes, look, let me explain as this is written by me. You may not understand the handwriting, so let me explain. Along the offer curve, just a minute. Huh, sir? না স্যার 18 না 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 স্যার 17-তে হ্যাঁ হ্যাঁ ও ভীষণভাবে প্রাইজ পেতে আগ্রহী এক- ও আমাকেও বলেছিল অনেকবার ম্যাম কবে প্রাইজ দেবে না ও বোধহয় পার্ট 1-এ পাবে শুধু Okay. Again, look, this is another interruption. I thought ki there will be no, but unfortunately there is. Okay. Look, so the offer curve, the trade is balanced, right? That is the definition of the offer curve. Along the offer curve, the trade should be balanced, and it is here. And if trade is balanced, then we are having price of exportable. This is already written actually. So price of exportable is equal to price of importable. So exportable, that is X, is equal to Py by Px star into M. Now, if terms of trade is rising, as we did here, ja chole geche. So I did not so many terms of trade lines. So if terms of trade is rising, that means price of exportable by price of importable is rising, right? So if px by py is rising, that means py by px is falling, right? Now, if py by px is falling, that means relatively, try to understand, relatively importables are becoming cheaper. Okay, py is my import price. So this is falling. So relatively import is becoming cheaper. So that means demand for import should rise. Okay, demand for import should rise. Now look what happened. Why I'm discussing this? Because I'm trying to explain the backward bending portion. Look, in the backward bending portion, as I said, the terms of trade is rising but export is falling. So why export is falling? That is the exact question. Okay, to be precise, the question is why export is falling when terms of trade is rising. Terms of trade is rising means price of exportable is rising. Then why should I reduce export? Right? Why should I reduce export when the price is rising? Here in this equality, price of py by px, this is falling and import is rising. Look, where is the problem? Py by px is falling, terms of trade is rising, that means px by py is rising. So py by px is falling, here comes. Py by px is falling. So the first term of my right hand side is falling. The first term of my right hand side is falling. And the second term of my right hand side is rising. So both are going to the opposite direction when terms of trade is rising. Py by px is falling and m is rising, and the product is my exportable, and the final product export which is falling in the backward bending portion. Okay, so the something is there. Okay, we don't know till now, we don't know where is the reason, but something is there in this equality, because you can understand export is dependent on two variables, and when terms of trade is rising, one variable is falling, another variable is rising. And export is the product of these two variables. So if falling is more than increase, then the product will fall, that is export will fall. Very simple. Up to this point, is it okay? If PYPX is falling more than demand for import, then don't look at this. Just try to look at my pointer. If PY by PX is falling and import is rising. If PY by PX is falling more than rise in M, then my export will fall. Up to this point, is it okay? If py by px is falling more than import, import is rising. I'm not doubt about it. But if py by px is falling more than increase in m, then the product, that is x, will fall. Up to this point, is it okay? Just look at this equality and try to understand.
Yes, ma'am.
Now the question is when it will happen. So we can understand why export can fall. But the thing is, we need this answer more precisely. Okay, so now the question is why it will happen. Why py by px will fall more than increase in m? Why? The reason is here. If import demand is inelastic in nature. Look, this is py by pm is the relative price of import, and m is also my import. So everything is in terms of import here. In my right hand side, everything is in terms of import. So if import is inelastic, If import is inelastic, then that if it is less than 1, inelastic means less than 1, and if it is less than 1, what is import elasticity? Import elasticity is the amount of import divided by the relative price of importable. So it is less than 1. Okay, and if it is less than 1, then I can say that denominator is changing more than numerator. Okay, the denominator is changing more than the numerator. That is why the ratio is less than 1. Okay, so that part was clear to us, that py by px should reduce more than increase in m. But why it will happen? But when it will happen? When import is inelastic. Okay, when import is inelastic, then only it is possible, and my export will fall. So this table is okay or not, this derivation?
Ma'am, can you give an example?
Yes.
Can you give an example?
um Look, it is absolutely, look, export is actually the sufferer. The thing is happening with my import. If I am thinking that importable commodities are inferior, so the price is falling. So in that case, price can fall steeply and the demand is not increasing so significantly. And because of the import sector, my export is the net sufferer. My export is falling. Okay. This is the relative price of importable. So importable, the price of relative price of importable is falling, but the people of the home country, they are thinking the commodity is inferior. So the demand is rising, but not to that level. And as my export is a product of these two, ultimately my export will fall. Actually, what happened? We are spending what? Um, okay, I'm not going to that part. This is something else. So is it okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, this is the definition: percentage change in import demand due to percentage change in relative price of importable. This is the elasticity of import demand. Yes, and this is the mathematical derivation. Elasticity of import, just what we written. So this is written in the log form. Now, value of export is equal to value of import along the offer curve that we know. So we are just rearranging them. X is equal to py by px into m, then taking log, then taking differential, and rearranging this, that, you are getting this relationship. Now, if px by py is rising, that means the terms of trade is rising, then py by px is falling, right? So dpy dpx by py by px, that is less than 0, and that means the first part of your right hand side is less than 0, negative. Okay, now what about the portion in the third bracket? If import is inelastic, that means if this is also less than 0, then that product will be less than greater than 0. 1 minus something less than 1, that means the product is greater than 0. The third bracket is greater than 0. The first part is less than 0. So the product, that is my total right hand side, will be less than 0. That is dx by x will be less than 0. That means export will fall. So export will fall given the condition EM is less than 1. If EM is less than 1, that is import is inelastic, then only your export will fall. This is the mathematical derivation of the backward bending offer curve. Okay.
Ma'am, what type of questions can we expect from this part?
Oh, simple. There's a why offer curve is backward bending. Draw the
So,
backward
ma'am,
bending offer curve and why it is so. Just use logic. Logical part is here and mathematical part is here. Okay.
okay, ma'am.
So I should stop here because I have discussed a lot about so many things. So in the next class, we will discuss. We will continue with the offer curve, and we will say that how can you get the international terms of trade or international equilibrium with the help of offer curve? What is the utility of the offer curve? Because from today's class, what is the conclusion? That offer curve is creating problem, because offer curve means there is a possibility of backward bending, and then I have to explain why it is backward bending. Question may come, then why it is backward bending. So offer curve is creating problem in our life. So actually, why we need the offer curve? We just try to find out the international equilibrium, which is not possible without offer curve. In the Ricardian also, the exact equilibrium in the international market is not derived. So offer curve will help us to derive it, and that we will discuss in the next class. Okay.
Ma'am,
Yes. Yes.
ma'am, actually, please can you give my attendance?
How many of you are left? Ashika said.
Ma'am,
Anyone else?
311.
Ma'am,
311.
Ma'am, 330.
11 means Shorot Jyoti.
Yes, ma'am.
Then,
Ma'am, 304.
Uri Babre, so many sounds are coming. 304.
Yes, ma'am.
Nerissa. Okay. Then,
ma'am, 356.
356.
Yes, ma'am.
Mehuli. Okay.
Ma'am, 330. Ishan.
Oh, done. Anyone
Ma'am,
else?
331.
Ma'am, 327.
Uri Babre, সবাইকে দিয়ে দি আর কি
Ma'am,
331 তো হয়ে গেল।
304.
Then anyone left?
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
303.
327.
327. And then
Ma'am,
303.
18S 346.
346. এই একবার দিলে আর বলবে না। 346 তো মৃদুলা, তুমি দিচ্ছ কেন?
না না আমি 18S 346.
18। আচ্ছা, ঘুম থেকে উঠেছো?
হ্যাঁ ম্যাম অনেকক্ষণ আগেই জয়েন করেছি আমি।
জনকে আমি একবার দেখেছি। জন, আর ইউ হিয়ার নাও? নো। গুড। এনিওয়ান এলস?
Ma'am, 318.
Ma'am,
হ্যাঁ?
303.
318.
শুনতেই পাচ্ছি না।
Ma'am,
Ma'am,
80.
349. Ma'am, 349.
Wait.